For the next few minutes, don't worry about anything. Just let loose and laugh.
Lord knows they will. It's the Tiny and Katie Show.
Hey, I'm Tiny.
And it's Katie. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Tiny and Katie Show. Thank you for returning.
Yeah, we're so glad that you're here. And speaking of returning, thank you for joining us on our debut episode. Katie, the feedback has been amazing. The number of views and downloads and listens, it's blown us away to extents like you wouldn't even believe. So thank you so much.
Well, I have to tell you, Tiny, every single person that I came across, I stopped them, whether I knew them or not, and asked them, "Hey, do you listen to podcasts?" Even if the answer was no. Oh, well, you know what? The
You're
Tiny and
gonna.
Katie Show. They are so funny and so much fun. You have to listen to this podcast. So some of those views might be from those random strangers that I stopped at Sheets, but whatever. It's all good.
That's quite all right. We'll take all we can get. You're all family and you're all welcome here. It's kind of like a living room where the goal is just to sit around and talk and tell stories and have fun. And hopefully there's something for everyone in this, especially our longtime listeners who wanted us back, and we're happy to be back. And thanks to everyone who called in, texted the radio station, and said they're so glad to hear Katie back with you, Tiny. And it's kind of like they stopped just short of saying it's just the way it's been meant to be.
Yeah, and I'll say this, Tiny, a lot of people that are in like my social circle these days are people that didn't know me when I was in radio. They know I was in radio, but never heard the Tiny and Katie Show. They don't know you personally, obviously. So I think that was fun for some of my friends to kind of hear how the banter that we have and the relationship that we have, and obviously the chemistry and the fun that we have, because everybody knows Katie's been in radio, because obviously I like tell every single person that I come across, but not a lot of people have had a chance to actually hear the show. So that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, so like Katie said, her friends, they've been talking about it, and some of her friends didn't know me, but my friend knows Katie. So it's been really good. It's good.
Your mom already knows me, so we've got that taken care of.
Well,
100%.
You're adopted into the family for sure. There's no doubt about that.
That's true. That's true.
So just so you know, we're going to do some exploring, so to speak, on how people listen, how long you listen. We understand the length of last week's episode and podcast was about 45 minutes. Now, that's not our plan to go that long every week, but it's not our goal to do that. That was more of just a get to know us, go back in time with us, take you through our history. That's the foundation. And then now we build from here. So we've got a bunch of topics to talk about, fun games we're going to play each week. One that we're going to play tonight that is just unreal, and I can't wait for this one.
I'm going to chime right on in here. I had a very, very traumatic. First of all, how was your week? How was your weekend? How are things going? We haven't really checked in. You doing good?
Everything's been great. It's been busy, but I know you can't wait to talk about yourself, so please go ahead.
It just seems like the polite thing to do, to at least reach out. Hey, Tiny, you good? Anything you want to share? No, you're good? Okay.
Oh my God,
So
Katie, it was blatant that you were just rushing me along to get to you.
I know. And if you actually stopped to tell a story, I wouldn't. I don't know what I would have done. I would have said, "That's great, Tiny. Can we talk about that later via phone?"
This
later?
is what you would have done. Here's the pose you would have had. It would have been this, like, yeah, okay, let's go. Move this along.
Let
But
me
what you
tell
got?
you, yeah, I can see why you said that, Tiny, but let me tell you how I can relate to that.
Right.
Okay, so something very traumatic. I had 2 very traumatic events happen to me over the course of the week. Now, one thing you have to know about me is I always have the most random things happen to me. And the stories that I tell, I think a lot of people think that I make them up, but I swear I don't. It's just, I think the universe knows I have a good sense of humor. So all these like really wild and crazy things happen to me, but they're all true stories. This one's not so crazy, but I'm 36 and I still feel like I'm pretty much 22. There's nothing that makes me feel old. I don't wake up with like a achy back. I don't, my leg doesn't hurt when it's going to rain or anything crazy like that. But the other day I'm getting ready for work and I'm curling my hair and my hair is finally long enough where I really like the look of it. And I'm kind of in the mirror looking like, oh yeah, look at that. My hair looks so good. Wait, what is that? Oh, that must be a really, really nice blonde piece of hair. Tiny. I found my very first gray hair. And I've heard a couple of my friends that are about my age talking how they've already found their first gray hair. And I just kind of thought they were crazy. I'm 36. I'm not going to get gray hair. Found my first gray hair, had pretty much a panic attack. I blacked out at some point. I called my hairstylist who lives an hour away, who I still go to because she's the best. And I said, I found my first gray hair. I'm kind of freaking out about it. This is truly the first thing that has made me feel like I'm aging. And that's a little
Wow.
dramatic.
You know, I could make fun and downplay it, but I know that that's a big deal for most women. Now, for me, I've been shaving my head for, man, 15, 16 years, somewhere around there. And it was just because I was super fat and was tired of sweating. And I figured, well, I can just take this one step at a time and I'll remove one obstacle that makes me hot. So I haven't really seen what color my hair is. It was always dark in years though. Well, right before I started losing weight, I was at a point where I really didn't care how I looked. And then more about my appearance, as you can see, I clearly still don't, but nonetheless, I'd let my hair grow for days on end. And I remember looking in the mirror the one day and I was like, oh, I really got to shave. And when I turned my head, it was like this shine that kind of went back across my head. I'm like, what in the world is that? Is that oily skin? And I look closer and I mean, the side of my head is salt and peppered all the way right now.
And let me chime in here, Tiny, because I just always feel like it I don't know, it's more it looks different on a man or they feel differently with the gray hair and with the salt and pepper. For women, that's a big deal, and especially for me, I still feel like I'm in my prime. I act like
Right.
I'm in my prime. I certainly my maturity is like I'm still 22.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But that
Yeah.
was the first thing that made me feel like, "Hey, I'm not as young as I used to be." Do you have anything that happens to you where you think, "Oh yeah, I'm not 23 anymore. I am definitely starting to age a little bit."
Um, I would say yes. I'll give this example, but I know what your reply is going to be. You're going to say, Tiny, as long as I've known you, you've been that way. I notice that in my inability to tolerate BS. And by that, I mean immaturity and stupid
Yeah,
comments.
this isn't new. This isn't new.
Well, but what I'll say is it's gotten worse. My tolerance level has just gotten to a point where instead of sitting there and taking it or dealing with it or just complaining to myself and mumbling under my breath, I will just completely remove myself from the situation because I'll pop a gasket if I don't. It's ridiculous.
This is interesting for you to say, Tiny, because I'm not saying that I'm not an intelligent person because I am, but I say some really stupid things. Like there have definitely been times where I say something and I think, wow, that doesn't make sense, or wow, that's not a word, or I've totally made that up. Like for example, do you remember when I was walking around saying equivalate for
Oh,
Lord
yes.
knows how
Mhm.
long?
I
Tiny, you know
do.
what? I would equivalate that to
Yep.
whatever.
I remember it very well.
And finally, one day, Tiny says, Katie, listen, because I used to get so mad at Tiny because he would
Oh,
constantly correct my grammar. I mean, it was to the point where I couldn't get 3 words into a sentence. And Tiny would say, oh, Katie, that's not right. Katie, that's not right. The Latin origin of that word is blah, blah, blah.
oh,
And I was just
shut
like, can you
up.
just. Can you just let it go every once in a while and just let me? I mean, I know it's wrong and just love me for it and just don't call me out on it. So equivalate went on for Lord only knows how long until one day Tiny said, all right, stop talking. I know you're going to be mad at me for this, but I'm happy to take it. The word is not equivalate. It is either equivalate. No, I'm sorry. Equivalent and equate, right? And I kept
Yeah.
putting them together to equivalate.
Well, what you were doing is you were conflating the two words, but what you don't know is what was happening behind the scenes. So Katie, when she would get one of these words, it wasn't like she just, said it once or twice or a few times. When she would get one of these words and it enters her vocabulary and she latches onto it, she goes
True.
in like a shark with all the teeth, and she'll wind up. And it was well understood thing that when Katie found one, she was going to try to work it into conversation wherever she could. Now, mind you, I'm on marching orders. Do not correct her. No, no, no. So I had to go around to all the people at the radio station and say, look, Katie's got this new word.
Katie's It's not a real one.
It's either I
not
I
real.
don't know what she's trying to say. If it's equate or equivalent or equivocal, I'm just not sure.
Let's just roll
But
with it. Let's just roll with
just let her go and just don't say anything. Because here's why. Because I thought and I knew, my belief was that if I would not have corrected you, and you said this to me a ton of times, if I wouldn't have said something to them and would have never corrected you, you'd have came to me like,
Tiny you SOB. Why didn't you tell me I was saying that wrong?
Thing. Yep, you're right. You're absolutely right. And
I had to correct you. I was like, Katie, this just needs to stop. Because put a nice little bow on this.
Oh.
I'll never forget one of the guys who used to do mornings on the rock station. We were coming back inside. We used to go out back and hang out at the radio station, get some fresh air, especially when the warmer months were there, which this was. And you walked back in, and he looks at me and he goes, Tiny, what is she trying to say? With that
I needed
word?
like a translator.
Said,
Tiny was my translator.
Oh, I said it's equivalent or equivalate. I bite the bullet, and I have no idea. Just let her go. I'll correct her at some point. Well, he looks at me, taps me on the shoulder, and she says, brother, I don't envy you for that.
Well, you know, there's something that there's some things that people do that really, really bother me. And I think sometimes it's to make themselves sound a little bit smarter or more sophisticated. Like, for example, I cannot stand, huge pet peeve of mine, if somebody's telling me a story and they say, well, you know about blah, 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 right? Oh, well, you know about this, right? Like, you feel inclined to automatically say yes, but if I don't know, you don't know about that? How do you not know about that? I think it is the most condescending way to ask somebody a question. Well, you know about this, right? No, I don't. You don't? You don't know about that? I mean, come on. Why would you even word it that way unless you want that person
Right.
to say yes, and then they say yes and they have no idea what you're talking about? I can't tell you how many times I've found myself in that situation. I'm like, oh yeah, of course I know about, something to do with physics, and I'm nodding my head. I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy, because that's always a good way to get out of it. That's crazy. Yeah,
Uh-huh,
let me
yep.
talk to you about what I would equivalate that to.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I wound up doing, and told you this, and you felt like a butthead when I said this, because finally, of many, we had a blowout or blow up. She brings this up, and she goes, "You know what? You're a jerk. You're always telling me that blah blah blah, correcting me like I'm an idiot." And I said, Katie, and I meant this. I honest to God meant it. I said, Katie, I want you to understand why I do that. If you mispronounce a word to me, I don't judge you for it. I'm not looking at you as less than or less intelligent. My fear is that you, and knowing how you are, that if you go out and say this to someone else, say these things to someone else, they may judge you, and you may believe they're judging you. It's a safe space with me, but if they
Right.
do it, I would feel bad if I didn't somehow try to keep you from that.
I agree with you, Tiny. Let me ask your opinion on something then, because this is an interesting point. I just had this discussion recently with one of my girlfriends. Up at school, we had to wear masks all year. Now, recently, it has been kind of up to you if you want to or not. And
Yep.
I have decided to not. And before, I never really thought about what was underneath the mask, AKA in my teeth. Never thought about it because I could eat, a salad and then put my mask back on and nobody ever saw it.
You could eat a what?
Recent a what? Yeah, a salad. Haha. Yeah, I say salad and sour cream and tail. Yes, we know. Southbound around South Mountain. Yes, we know about all this.
Right, yes.
And so somebody recently at the end of the day, I mean, it's like 3:30. Kids are out. I'm getting ready to roll out of school. One of my girlfriends says, "Katie, you got a little something in your teeth." Now, mind you, I ate lunch 4 hours ago. 4 hours ago. So here I am walking around the school, and you know me, like I smile a lot, I laugh a lot. I'm just like, hi.
Yep.
My teeth are always showing. How many people saw food in my teeth and not one person stopped to say, "Hey, Katie, you have some food. You might want to get that out." I'm curious to know if people would prefer to know,
Right, yeah.
would you prefer somebody tell you you have something in your teeth, or would you prefer that they let you go all day with an enormous honking piece of carrot or lettuce in your tooth as you're smiling with the world? I mean, it's the same thing. I feel the same way.
What was it?
What?
What was it?
Oh, it was a piece of lettuce for my salad. It was huge. It covered the tooth. It covered it. It was underneath my tooth. It was enormous. And everybody just let me walk around like that all day. But I would I would equivalate this to
Oh my.
if you were if you were in the pool, and this is like a huge fear of mine. When I'm in the pool and I go underwater and I come back up and I don't want boogers coming out of my nose. That's super, super embarrassing. And so every time I'm in a pool, you probably never noticed because we're not like swimming together all the time. I'm constantly wiping my nose, constantly, because I'm so afraid that I have a booger out of my nose and nobody's going to tell me that.
Jeez.
Just tell me, hey, Katie, go, gotta go like this a little bit. I'd be down with that.
You know, Katie, I wish I could tell you that's not weird that you think that way, but
I stop it right now, because whenever you were done saying whatever you were going to say, I was going to say, I snot. Oh, what was I going to say? Oh, you know what? You ruined it for me.
I know I did. I'm sorry.
even
I'm
hear
sorry.
you.
I had to. I totally did. So, Katie, next up, we want to do something called Picture It. I've been talking about this since we decided we were going to do a podcast. I said, there's something I want to do. We have so many pictures, whether it's on our Facebook pages, in our phones, in our cameras, because back that far, we did have cameras. And I said, I want us to each pick a picture, and then I'll show you one I pick one week, and then the next week you show me one that you pick. This right here is about to be why you really should join us on YouTube at our YouTube channel, because obviously you'll be able to see the picture that Katie is about to see for the first time in years. The goal is she's going to look at it for the first time cold here in a couple seconds. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to get her response and see how much she remembers about it and get both our takes on this picture. Okay.
Okay. I'm a little nervous because sometimes when I see the pictures that you put on Facebook or when we reminisce, I look so young and thin. Like
Okay.
I look like a smoke bomb, and now it's just kind of like
I don't think
I'm
that
okay.
this one is going to be about your age or your weight.
Okay.
Neither one will impress you in this one. So go ahead. Look at the picture.
Okay. I kind of have anxiety about this. Oh, yeah. Nick Nolte. Yes, Nick Nolte. Yes. Oh my gosh, can I tell this story? I love this story.
Let me just set this up and say this one goes back to 2010, just FYI. We're about 1 year in to our show together. So go ahead.
There is also another story to do with this. So back in the day when Tiny and I would go to the radio station to do our morning show, I would get up at 3:30 in the morning and then be at the station around 4. So I never really did a lot to my hair. I would just kind of put it up, however, go to work and just pray that it looked okay. And I started putting this really, really intense gel into my hair, putting it up in a bun on the top of my head at night, and then taking it out and then kind of piecing it out. And it would look sometimes a little wavy, a little cute. Well, I don't know if I just like went to town on the gel that night or what the case may be, but I went to the station the next morning and I took my hair tie out of the bun that was on the top of my head, and the hair didn't move. It just stayed there, just stayed completely still on the top of my head. And I was like, oh my gosh, Tiny, like, is this okay? Is everything okay? And he said, no, it's not okay. You need to do something with your hair. I didn't have a brush. So I think you and I were both like getting our hands into my hair to try to get it to like remove from the bun.
No,
And
we weren't.
As this is
It was
happening,
you.
Just me?
Well, so you were on the other side of the counter when you first took it down. You said, does it look good? I said, no, it doesn't look good. Now, meanwhile, I'm doing whatever I'm doing on the computer or whatever on my side, and you're on your side, fiddling with it.
And I'm glad that it worked out that way, Tiny, because he looks at me and he says, stop. And he takes a photo. And I'm like, oh, does it look good now? Did I finally like get it all into this beautiful coif? And he says, no, you look exactly like Nick Nolte's mugshot.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I'm like, Nick Nolte? What mugshot?
Right.
And he puts it side by side, and I'm telling you, you don't know who is Nick Nolte and which one is.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It was unbelievable. I look up and I'm like, whoa, don't move. And I grab my camera, I snap the picture, and to her point, she's like, oh, must look great. And I was like, no.
Look good?
You look just like Nick Nolte. Oh, Lord. And at the time, this was one of the more famous mugshots, was the Nick Nolte mugshot. So it kind of surprised me that she hadn't seen it before. I was like, well, when she sees it, she's going to know exactly, who it is and all. And I showed it to her and she's like, oh my God. And I said, yeah, now you see what I'm seeing.
It's It's a terrible picture. Identical. Like there's my doppelganger right there.
Oh,
Tiny, but do you remember I entered a contest to win a makeover with Jennifer Aniston, and
yeah, I
they
do.
said to
Yep.
send your worst oh, this is a great little story here. So Jennifer Aniston was promoting the skincare or hair care line, and they were doing a contest where if you send in a picture of your worst hair day and it won, you would get this makeover with Jennifer Aniston. And obviously, both of us thought, well, I mean, me, Nick Nolte mugshot, there it is. There's the clear
Yeah.
winner there. So I sent it in, and I'm waiting every day. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting to win. I mean, I'm hands down. I'm like, I'm gonna win this thing. I have a Nick Nolte doppelganger mugshot. Like, there's no way I'm not gonna win.
To be
So
fair,
Tiny,
I thought you were going to win too.
yeah. Well, do you remember what you did in my phone?
Oh,
You went into
Oh my goodness, I
You
forgot.
went into my phone. This is back before, like face identification. Tiny goes into my phone and he changes his number to a Los Angeles, California number. And my phone starts ringing and it
Yep.
says Los Angeles, California. And I am screaming around the radio station, this is it. This is it. I won the makeover with Jennifer Aniston. I'm going to go meet Jennifer Aniston. And I pick it up and Tiny is hysterically
Yeah.
laughing on the other end.
Oh, yeah.
I was so mad at you.
Yep. Well, honestly, I really thought that you were going to win.
Hi.
And I think after a certain amount of time went by, you weren't letting it go. But I was like, this is not going to happen. I kind of felt bad to tell you that. I thought to myself, I was always looking for a way to innocently prank her and just try to get that reaction. And I really wish I would have filmed this thing, but obviously I was using my phone. So I step out and I go around the corner.
You hear me screaming.
So I'm not seeing this, but I'm hearing it. And like Katie said, all I did was change my name to Los Angeles. And all I hear this is, oh God, where's Tiny? Oh God, this is it, baby. This is it. You would have thought she was getting ready to give birth. Like, oh Lord, this is it. It's coming, baby. Let's go. And she was beside herself. She goes, okay, I got to compose myself. Here we go. Hello.
Hello.
And I went,
This is Katie.
you
How can I
didn't
help
win
you?
a damn thing.
I was fully expecting also Jennifer Aniston to be on the other line. Like, is this Katie from the Tiny and Katie show on WAYZ? Just want to let you know you won the
Right.
best hair day costume or contest, and I'm going to come and personally pick you up on my jet and give you a makeover. Like, that's what I was expecting.
Looking back, you could always do things differently, but I really wish, thinking about this now, that I could have, we're in radio, so there's tons of voices in the building and around. I could have totally set that up to where with people, when you would call, I could have someone play like Jennifer Aniston's assistant. It's like, hi, is this Katie? Yes. Well, stand by, please, for Miss Aniston. And don't like click, wait. And then someone else, jump on and act like they were Jennifer Aniston. I mean, you would have died
I would have died.
with this.
I would have died. I would have blacked out and cried and passed out.
And to think
Yeah.
that we could have possibly gotten it on video and hidden a camera or something to where we would have been able to record it. I look back and I see that, as funny as it was, and it was great, but the missed opportunity to take it to the next level and because all that stuff, it was just between us. We didn't think about let's post it for likes or TikToks, and TikToks didn't exist, or for the masses to see. For us, it was just fun, but it didn't dawn on us to do anything with it. But I hope we do these stories justice, but there's no way we can. But God, that was so hilarious.
I'm glad you did not take it to the next level, because you know me, like when my emotions get high, I hyperventilate, I cry, I can't
yep.
control it. So if I truly thought Jennifer Aniston was on the phone telling me I won the bad hair day contest, I would have passed out. I would have passed out, and then I would have convulsed, and then I would have, I mean, I would have been in bad shape. I would still probably be recovering from that incident. So it's probably good that you left it at just changing your number to Los Angeles, California. That was fair. That
Absolutely.
was far enough, I think.
Yeah, of course. So this week we found that Katie has discovered her first gray hair.
Right here.
You've seen a picture of her. By the way, was it the only gray hair so far? Did you explore?
No, so I'm still telling myself that I think it is just like a really blonde hair that just went
Hmm.
rogue, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's gray. And I'm telling you, Tiny, there's nothing really about me that makes me feel old or older or that I'm aging, but I'm not, I'm not in my prime anymore. But that was the one where I thought, whoa, that's a big one. I hear people talking
Yeah.
about this, and yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm curious what has happened to people that made them feel like they were aging. What was it? Is it the back pain? Is it the
Yep. Yep.
wrinkles? What is it that makes you feel like, "Oh, yep, I'm not 25 anymore."
No, well, we're not getting any younger, but we are hopefully getting more fun. Again, we thank you so much for joining us. It's hard to believe that episode 2 is essentially wrapped up here. We're having a great time with you. And again, we encourage you, if there's something that we talk about, like for instance, when she asked about me, if how I discovered my gray hair, or when I discovered my gray hair, what I thought about it, we are talking to you. So join us on our socials. It's all Tiny Katie Pod. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, same thing on YouTube. You can leave comments there. And if you get a response, it's us. We
Mhm.
we don't have millions and millions of viewers and likes on our Facebook page. We don't have a team. It's all done by us, and we like it that way because now if we get to 10 million followers, then we have to reevaluate. But it's us,
Yeah.
and we like it that way.
I don't know if that's happening, but that'd be cool if it did. But thank you guys again for joining us, and I'm sorry to all the random people that I stopped at the gas station and at the mall, and I was just like, "Hey, do you listen to podcasts?
Right.
If not, listen to Tiny Katie Show," because I'm telling you, every single person that I came across in the last week, I definitely told them about this. So if that was you, thanks for listening.
Yeah, and please tell a friend, spread it on Facebook, shares and teaser videos that we put up. We really appreciate it. We love you. I'm Tiny.
I'm Katie.
Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week on the Tiny and Katie Show podcast, Tuesday, 10 a.m.
Bye.